1950s, two officers talking about their most recent case. 3 victims have been found, skinned and left at the trailhead of the local mountains. Like whoever it was sending a message. One officer takes a drink of his milk, noticing the photo of a missing girl on the side, when all of a sudden, the crackle of a CB radio takes the station by surprise. Single gunshot heard, large fire. The officers rushed to the scene. They approached a woman, dirty and covered in wounds. She stood there, comatose, rocking back and forth, saying nothing. The local PD were trying to get a statement from her, but she only stared at them with soulless eyes, black as charcoal. The police tried their best to figure out what happened. Piecing it together, the man that suffered the gunshot wound was the skinner of the mountain victims. Without any further questions, the woman wandered off into the woods behind the burning house. The fire got completely out of control, burnt everything to a crisp. Eventually, the land recovered. The grass grew greener. The trees took back over the land. 75 years later, the tall pine trees covered up all the horror that had happened. Present day, Courtney awoke, her favorite cat, Snickers, sitting on her chest. Her dad standing in the doorway with a big goofy grin on his face, and his eyes shining bright. Today is the day he is going to start his dream. Homestead. Courtney is an only child. Oliver, Courtney's father, was a high-up executive at a software company. He made a fortune and now decided to play homesteader with his new girlfriend, Maddie, who is supposedly some type of geologist, I think. She has a lot of stupid rocks. Easy to convince her that homestead was a life for them. Courtney heard a vehicle's door shut. There was a big box truck in the yard. She yelled down the stairs. Movers are here. She hated to admit it, but she was also excited about this new chapter. Maddie was complaining because one of her stupid figurines got a chip in it. So ugly, I don't know why anybody would collect them. Dad standing there, playing supervisor to 4 burly men doing all the work of packing up our lives to start the journey. The truck was loaded and headed up the old mountain to unpack our stuff. We stayed down in the local town, eating at a roundabout diner. Dad ordered the biggest, bloodiest steak, trying to blend in with the townies. Maddie ordered a simple salmon salad, not caring about blending in, and I just ordered off the kids' menu. Some type of chicken fingers and fries. We started up the mountain, and we saw a rundown pizza place with a clown on top. Dad had visited the site many of times to design the house. This was the first time Maddie and I laid eyes upon our new life. It was a quaint log cabin for bedrooms, but that wasn't the selling point. The selling point was the miles of unexplored wilderness. While Dad and Maddie were inside arguing about why she had to bring so many damn books about rocks, I wandered into the backyard, barefoot, paying them no mind. I truly do adore this place, I thought to myself. And then I stepped on something. Just my luck, it freaking hurts. I reached down and pulled a small tooth-shaped item out of the sole of my foot. I ran to my father, tears in my eyes, clenching the tooth, and all my dad had to say was, "I think that's from a whitetail." "Thanks, Dad," I said sarcastically. "You needed to come in anyways, Courtney, it's getting dark out there. Maddie's going to town to pick us up a pizza." I said I hope it isn't from that dump we drove by on our way up here, and my dad snickered and said, "The one and only." It was nice talking like this to my father again. He completely changed when Maddie came into our lives. He didn't care about the stupid getting in touch with nature stuff. I know this is truly her idea. We saw the headlights pulling into the driveway, the beam shining through our windows. "Supper time," she announced. I looked down at the pizza box, and it's that same stupid clown face from the pizza place. We all sat around the table, eating off our paper plates. Maddie isn't the worst. I just don't like that Dad changed so quickly when they met. Before I knew it, me and Maddie were in a conversation about cats, our common ground. Snickers at his new perch, at the top of the fridge, staring down at us. "It's late," my dad announced, reaching up to the sky and making an exaggerated yawn. I slowly got up from the dining table and made my long journey upstairs. "I can't go to bed yet," I yelled down to them. "I have to unpack my toothbrush and sheets." The cat raced by me, claiming his spot on my bed. I told him he could stay there for a little bit, but when I'm done brushing my teeth, that bedsheet has to get on. She reaches over to her nightstand to shut off her lamp. She had such wonderful dreams, but she doesn't know the nightmare that is coming for her. In the morning, my dad's already running the rototiller. He's trying to make a vegetable patch. The smell of coffee radiates upstairs. I went outside with a coffee in hand. I started to have a lively conversation with my father when I saw something slowly moving in the background. It was Maddie, and she was giving me the sign to keep my dad talking so she could sneak up and scare him. Boo! We both erupted in laughter. My dad must have jumped at least a foot. He turned around breathless, but still smiling. Maddie and I wiped tears from our eyes. I was just exploring near the weird rocks over there. I found something super neat, and she presented my father with a rusted old knife, like a golden retriever, fetching something. Dad admired the old shabby knife. It's rusty but still surprisingly sharp, he said. Maddie gave him a flirty push. I hate when they do this. She joked about finding him a sheath for the blade. I made an audible noise of annoyance. I wanted to go on my own adventure. I'm going to go exploring my new home. Slowly and surely I cut through our leach field. To my surprise, I came across a crumbling rock wall. I'm guessing that it used to be a property line or something. I followed it into the woods. Chipmunks scurried along, weaving in and out of the rocks, guiding my way deeper into the woods. Snickers bolted in front of me chasing a chipmunk. I hadn't noticed he was following me. I stopped as soon as I noticed the rock wall split in the middle, and in the middle was a white birch. The chipmunk scurried up the tree. Snickers on its tail. I yelled to stop. He stopped midway up the tree, and he looked down at me and just started meowing. He somehow managed to get stuck in the tree. I was trying to coach him down, and that's when I noticed the symbol carved deep in the layers of the tree. It looked like cicada's wings spread open. I didn't have the time to examine it as much as I wanted to, because that's when Snickers worked his way down. I decided it was time to head back home. That symbol freaked me out. Snickers protested and took off after some other creature. I spent hours searching for Snickers, but eventually I had to start going home. It was a lot darker than I imagined being in these woods. I saw fire flickering towards the direction I thought was home. I was right. I saw my dad and Maddie staring down at the roaring fire. I ran over to my father, eyes welled up like a dam getting ready to burst. Before I could croak out the word, Snickers came trotting behind me like nothing ever happened. I was so happy. I didn't even mention the weird symbol I saw in the woods. I reached down to pick up my long-lost friend, but this time he was sticky. I didn't care. Pressed him to my chin. He's slightly brown now. I knew what I had to do. I had to face my fears. It was time to give Snickers a bath. I got the warm water running in the kitchen sink, staring out the window at my father and Maddie. Maddie whispered something in my father's ear. The fire cast strange shadows upon his face. He started to laugh. His face looked like it was contorting. It must have been the way the flames cast the dancing shadow upon his face. His lips were curling up and very cracked looking. Before I could say something out the window, I noticed my own reflection. The sticky substance that was on Snickers is now on my face. I splashed some water from the sink on my face. The brown substance started turning crimson red, and that's when I figured out it was blood. My first thought was it was blood from the cat. I ran to my father to tell him. My dad didn't seem to care, but Maddie ran over to the cat helping me scrub him. The sink water turned red. Praying he wasn't hurt. He had no injuries, and that's when my dad chimed in. What do you expect? He's an animal. He must have caught the creature he was chasing after. I protested. He wouldn't have done such a thing. Maddie and my father just gave the same look. He was just following his urges. I grabbed a towel, wrapping Snickers in it. I was so pissed at my father and Maddie for saying such a thing I marched upstairs still angry. I peeked out at my father and his girlfriend. He was still outside looking at the fire, laughing, having a good time. That's when I noticed Maddie handed him a small brown item, and he threw it in the fire. Then he sat down and poured himself a drink. This is strange. The father I knew hated alcohol. She changed him so much. I wish I could say for the better. I curled up, me and Snickers in the bed, and I fell asleep. I woke up early the next morning. I didn't smell the usual coffee in the air. I went downstairs and Dad and Maddie were nowhere to be seen. I wandered out to the new vegetable patch my dad made. And at the foot of the vegetable patch was a neatly placed whitetail skull with gems in it. Obviously, I freaked, ran back into the house, and slammed the door behind me. I eventually got myself calmed down, ate some toast, and listened to some music. Then I heard some noise coming from outside. It was my dad and Maddie chatting, walking up the driveway. I went to the front porch to greet them. I told my father about the skull, and he said, "Yes, isn't it nice?" Maddie found it. She said those gems are supposed to bless the crops. I thought to myself, of course it was Maddie, her and those stupid rocks that she loves so much. And on his hip was that knife, this time with a sheath made out of leather. I wanted to ask him where he got it, but I knew he was going to say Maddie got it for him, and that's when it blurted it out. You see the new sheath for my knife? Maddie says that a real hunter needs to carry a blade with him. I rolled my eyes like he's some great big hunter. He worked in IT 2 months ago. When I thought it couldn't get any more annoying, Maddie draped her arms around my father and said, "My great big hunter." While she was draped out on my father, I noticed a symbol tattooed on her back. It was the same symbol I saw carved into that tree. My eyes bugged out of my head. I turned to Maddie, and I had to ask the question that was on my mind, "What's that symbol?" And she nonchalantly told me that it's for fertile ground. I didn't want to push it too far because it looked like she was getting antsy about something, and that's when a cruiser pulled in. The officer stepped out of the car. My father met the officer halfway. The officer introduced himself. "Officer Wilson," he said, extending his hand to my father, who shook it, and said, "Nice to meet you. I'm the new landowner, Oliver." I wish this was a social call, but there was a body found, missing its skin, just a mile down the road from here. I wanted to know if you saw anything suspicious. That's when Maddie rushed over, nosy as ever, trying to figure out if there are any more details. My father shook his head, the officer still lingering. Maddie turned to my father, whispering in his ear, and my father piped up, "If there are no further questions, me and my fiancé are going to go for a hike." My brain stopped. Fiancé. He never said such a word. I wanted to tell the officer about my cat coming back bloody, about the strange symbol I saw carved in the tree, but I couldn't. I was stopped, one word bouncing around in my brain, fiancé. I couldn't make sense of this information. I had to find a place to process. I saw the officer stepping back in his cruiser from the comfort of my bedroom window. Driving further away, now he just looked like a speck down this long mountain driveway. Maddie had wandered back to the vegetable patch. My dad walked to the front porch and came inside. He's coming to talk to me, I thought. We're finally going to talk. He's finally going to let me have a say. He opened up the door, and he said, "Maddie wants me to build her a she shed. Do you want to come to help pick out the lumber?" I screamed, "No." I buried my face deep inside my pillow in protest. With no argument, he just shut the door. He didn't even try to beg me to come with him. He doesn't even care. All he needs is his stupid fiancé. Then I saw my dad and her getting into the truck, towing a trailer behind them. They were gone forever. I didn't care. I was in my room sulking. Then I saw the headlights of the truck coming up the driveway, bed and trailer loaded with shingles, 2x4s and plywood. Everything you would need to make a shed. My dad didn't even come inside the house. He just got right to work, unloading the materials. Maddie just standing there talking to him. I wish my father would just come up here and talk to me, but instead of my father, it was her. She came upstairs. She wanted to talk. She knocked on the door. She said, "I'm bringing you a peace offering. We stopped at the diner on our way back, and we picked up some chicken fingers for you." I hate to admit they were good, and she could tell that I enjoyed them. I told her I wasn't feeling that well, and I wanted to take a shower, so she left. I really just wanted to be left alone, because I didn't want to have an awkward conversation with her. I watched them through my window. She went back over towards my father. At this point, I decided to get in the shower. I started feeling bad about how I treated my dad, so after the shower, I went out to try to smooth things over with him. I've never seen him look so focused in my life, hammer in hand, working by the fire, casting long shadows upon his face. The skin on his face looked looser, or maybe he's just losing weight, I thought to myself. It took me a while to get his attention. He eventually turned his head and said, "Did you enjoy the chicken fingers? It was Maddie's idea to get them for you." Then he got right back to hammering. Maddie appeared then and asked me what we were talking about. I simply said nothing, and then she asked if he showed me his new tattoo. I shook my head no, because my father would never get a tattoo. And that's when my father chimed in and lifted up his shirt. It was Maddie's idea, he said. He got a strange symbol, not like the one she had. I asked him what it meant, and this is when Maddie butted in again, "One that serves the land." This is when my internal dialogue couldn't stay internal anymore. I burst out, "You're nothing like the father that raised me. You don't even have your own ideas anymore." My father didn't react. Head tilted down to the ground. Hammer driving in a nail, the fire in the background making an orange tinge surrounding him. I decided I had enough. It was time to call it a night. My dad still working furiously to finish the project. The sun woke me the next morning. My dad nearly done with last night's project, placing the finishing touch, a lock on the door. Then he simply just turned around, walked up to the porch, void of all color, and laid down. I was concerned about my father, but I was still too furious with him to speak to him, so I descended the stairs. My father has managed to slump himself into the couch, and that's where he stayed for the whole day. I walked past him going to look at the shed that's more important than me. Maddie was already in there, doing God knows what. I wasn't the only one examining the shed. Snickers stayed pawing at the door, leaving visible scratch marks on it. I shooed him away. He must have got the hint, because he took off towards the woods again. I decided it was still early, so I gave chase to him. Deeper and deeper into the woods we went. We passed the birch tree. I'm trying not to look in that direction because if I don't look, it's not there or that's what I tell myself. Eventually, I came upon an old abandoned campsite that looks like there hasn't been anybody there for years. My curiosity piqued. I saw a dilapidated cabin. I approached cautiously. I peered in and saw a bunch of scattered papers everywhere. A newspaper from 1950 talking about a mountain skinner caught, single gunshot wound to the head, woman wanted for questioning, not expected to be involved. I looked around. There was a carving the same as the tree, but above the fireplace, the floor was covered in dust, and that's what caught my eye. Cat footprints going towards a recently moved bookshelf. I examined it further. I noticed there were fingerprints indented into it, like it's been used for generations. I slowly pull it open curiously. Questions raced through my mind. What was behind it was a long flight of stairs going down to the cobblestone basement. A single oil lamp hung on the wall, below that, a table with a box of matches. My curiosity was too great. I grabbed the matches. I took the oil lamp off the wall, and then I heard someone or something approaching the cabin. I shut the makeshift door and closed myself in. It sounded like Maddie talking to my father. No, that's not talking, that's chanting. I went further into the basement, hoping that they wouldn't hear me. I lit the oil lamp and noticed in the middle of the floor was a cocoon made out of human flesh. I bit my tongue so hard to stop my screams, and I noticed the white fur. That must have been where Snickers got the blood from. Blood pumping to the wound in my tongue, my brain racing. The cocoon had one big part missing. Strange books line the bookshelves that are surrounding the room. I managed to read one word on it, and it was cicada, and that's when a hand covered in a rag went over my mouth. Oh no, it's dark, I'm hyperventilating, and then there was nothing but darkness. I was awoken by pain radiating in my forearm, and that's when I noticed, Maddie with Dad's knife in hand, carving the cicada symbol in my arm. My dad standing there, skin hanging looser than ever like it was just gonna slip right off, reading out loud, in a language I don't quite understand, an old leather-bound book with a cicada on it. I tried to run, but I was tied in place. I looked over at Maddie, hatred in my eyes. I know what you are, I said. You must have hatched from the cocoon, and that's when she stopped me. I did have my cocoon, but that cocoon down there is not for me. It's for you. You should be grateful I chose you. In 75 years you will hatch and continue the cycle. My dad stopped reading. He looked at me, eyes no longer shining, and he said, Maddie knows best. And he returned back to his book. But this time I understood what he was saying. How could you do this to me? I pleaded. Because you were chosen. That's the only thing he said. Maddie looked at me like I was her prized possession. I worked tirelessly collecting those skins with your father. Stayed up all night working on the skin in my shed. It sucks that you couldn't wait a night. I need one more skin before I put you in. I spit in her face. You made my dad build you, that so you could practice your cult stuff. She wiped off her face, still smiling. You still don't get it, huh? I'm the old cicada queen and you're next in line. Then it all sunk in like a dark hole. She's been grooming me this whole time. Don't look so sad, she said. You're not gonna die. Then she turned to my father and pulled the skin tight to my father's frame. You can make out his skeleton now. She slit it clean off with the very blade she had given my father. This should be good enough to cover the hole. My father's face didn't change one bit. He wasn't my father anymore. He was nothing but a tool for her bidding. I still have some loose ends to tie up, she told me, and she pulled out a long needle and slowly sewed up my father's wound. Then she told my father to grab a shovel and to start digging. I thought you said you weren't going to kill me. I'm not. I'm going to bury the cocoon. My dad outside digging my resting place. Maddie inside reading from that same leather-bound book my father had. I told her to stop, but she told me this is for my new life. I wept and pleaded, but she still didn't stop. Then my father came back inside, mouth holding on by a thread. Maddie saw the terrified look on my face, and she simply said, he doesn't need that anymore anyway. His job's almost done. Then my father ripped me from my seat. I didn't know he was this strong. I tried to fight against him. He plunged me deep in the cocoon, her chanting behind him, and then she started sewing it. It's so dark in here, so dark I'm scared. Then she whispered to my dad, "You know what you have to do," and she stood peering down through the singular hole above my head, and she slit her own wrist, green goop, pus, and some type of creature came out of her vein. "I'm gonna be locked in with this thing," and then I pleaded to let me go, and that's when the creature made its move. Right down my throat, wiggling the whole way, I could feel its long spines embedding into my windpipe, into my stomach, and then it was done. The cicada must live on. Walkie-talkie crackled. One gunshot wound to the head. Fire out of control. The land will heal once again.